different fields of life. All these will be showing on your TV Monday to Friday between 7 a.m. and 8:15 a.m. OSBC TV AM Coffee. Start your day fresh.
Money I got when I was starting was £9. That was my saving for 8 years in the police force. So out of these £9, I bought raffia, bought drums, bought a small bicycle for £1.10 and some costumes, and I started.
He put out an advert in the press asking for 30 charming ladies as actresses. 30. Can you imagine a new theater asking for 30 women? And he got no response whatsoever.
Then I put in another advertisement, wanted 30 lady clerks as workers, Ogunde, what was it then, African Music Research Party. And then the response was tremendous. Many people came, many girls came, even boys came.
When they arrived for interviews, he then told them that he wanted them for, as actresses, so that most of them ran away. And some were removed by irate parents who didn't want their girls appearing on the stage and being considered as prostitutes, which they were in those days, not so much now.
Ogunde in the recording studio in Lagos, laying down tracks for his latest single.
Tenor drum. Tenor drum. Just a bit, yeah, louder, louder,
Ogunde's theatre has prospered since those early days in the 40s, and others have followed this path. Most of them, like Ogunde, have been writer-actor-managers, giants in their own right. Men like the late Kola Ogumola, the late Duro Ladipo, Moses Olaiya, and Oyin Adejobi. 40 years ago, there was no professional theatre in Nigeria in the strict sense of the word. Today, there are over 30 struggling traveling companies in just the Yoruba-speaking area of Nigeria alone. During those years, Ogunde's own company has constantly adapted and changed its style and subject matter. In the late 40s, for instance, the young Ogunde was influenced by the nationalism of such men as Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, later to be Nigeria's first president, and Chief Obafemi Awolowo. He started to write plays that reflected the new political awareness of his time.
They were really created specifically to imbibe cultural pride into the Nigerian public. Cultural pride so that they would be conscious to realize that colonial rule was, continuing colonial rule was not good.
In fact, when he took his play Strike and Hunger to the tin mining town of Jos, the colonial authorities reacted.
And when the play started, police came on the stage and scattered the actors and actresses and scattered the audience and arrested Ogunde and a few of his artists as well. And of course, the nationalist press notified the whole country immediately with screeching headlines. It became a hot public debate for days. Their darling had been captured by these very cruel people, by these colonial masters. And this, of course, helped Ogunde immensely.
Independence came in 1960. But Ogunde's clashes with the authorities didn't finish with the end of the colonial era. He continued to be critical of the new African rulers. In '64, he wrote a play called Yoruba Ronu, meaning Yoruba Think. Although set in ancient times, it was in fact a bitter comment on the then current struggle between two Nigerian politicians competing for power, Chief Obafemi Awolowo and his protege, Chief S.L. Akitola.
They invited him to write a play for the inauguration of the cultural arm of their party, and he agreed. And when he put on the play, they thought he was going to show a nice cultural show on Yoruba custom, and he started attacking them.
It's stories of a king who, leaving his vice-regent temporarily in charge of his court, travels throughout his kingdom. But the vice-regent, having been given power, has no intention of giving it up. The king is taken captive, and corruption and poverty come to his land. His bewildered subjects are left to suffer. Eventually, the gods intervene and the king is restored to his rightful place.
The prime premier and the ministers realized that he was attacking them, and they all got up and walked out. And he continued with the play, and it was immensely enjoyed by the public and the audience. And a few days later, he was banned. This time, he did not go to press. It was the press that protested on his behalf.
This banning order lasted right up to Nigeria's first military coup 2 years later. But before then, in the 50s, Ogunde had developed what was later to be called his concert party style. Again, he was responding to the people's changing mood.
They wanted a theater that concentrated a lot on jazz and Western variety, shows. And he had been doing this in Ghana, having his women playing the saxophone and dressed in grass skirt and big hats and really shaking their figure. It was a theater that really oozed with sex appeal, which was not so in his theater of the 40s.
He put onto the stage a collection of contemporary rogues, bomber boys and good time girls, talking hip and local pidgin, reflecting the easygoing morals of the new city life.
Which business do they crash now? You mean me? No. I'm importer and exporter. I don't get beer, but I supply them beer. Of course. That is ticket change. Ticket change. Sign your name.
And they warn you. And they warn you. All these ladies, where you they do. I warn you, say you know good.
Will you go?
Huh?
Will you go?
Go on.
Push him out.
But in the 60s, Ogunde changed direction again. The West was moving in fast. Nigerians wanted to remember and record the old ways before they were changed beyond recognition. So we return to Aroquintenia, written in 1964. The sad tale of the poor Efutajo, condemned to exile in the forest for having given birth to a stone. We take up the story many years later when a strange young boy is found by the river and brought to the king's palace.
Give me your
Already, he has told them that his name is Oriadeki Igbe, meaning in Yoruba, the one born to be king. Shortly after, the king summons his people to the palace. The king's chamberlain insists that everyone should come, even poor Efotajo, who is brought in from the forest by 2 hunters. She is so changed that people don't even recognize her. The old priestess explains the king's plan. The plan is for all the women to prepare with their own hands a stew. They will offer it to Oriadeki Igbe. It is hoped that through this, he will come to know his proper mother. Eventually, it seems Oriadeki Igbe has been shown everyone. The priestess asks him to take just one final look. So there it is. The righteous have come out on top. The wicked are to be punished. While the 2 elder wives are led away, Efotajo, now bathed and freshly dressed, returns to sing of how with patience and honesty we can overcome our misfortunes. A sentiment close to Ogunde's heart.
In any venture, there must be problems, there must be difficulties, and then one has to persevere in spite of all odds. I think this has been the reason why I have been able to be successful up to this point. The whole money I got when I was starting was £9. That was my saving for 8 years in the police force. So out of this £9,
Today, in spite of his success and national popularity, Ogunde's theatre still operates as it's always done. It's never had a subsidy or government grant. It survived, as indeed do all the other traveling companies, on its simple ability to pull a crowd.
aago mẹ́jọ alẹ́ tòní ni ìròyìn ọ̀dàbòjúbà gan-an àfikínni ẹ máa bọ̀ mbẹ́ Hotel Frontier láago mẹ́jọ lálẹ́ Hotel Frontier.
Ogunde deliberately keeps his operation simple. In a country where things have a habit of breaking down, he believes in being self-sufficient, even to carrying his own generator for lighting, and sometimes even his own stage. As those who have seen him in rehearsal will know, he doesn't allow anything to upset him.
I've never seen him lose his temper. I suppose he must do, but I've never seen it. He's always extremely patient, very friendly. This is how I think he designs the Nigerians. We are quite an aggressive race as a whole. And he has his own personal style of not being aggressive. And even during the pressure of rehearsals, he's still extremely calm and relaxed. When it comes to business, it's as hard as steel.
I think, in my own opinion, a good artist is not a good businessman. I think both don't go together. If you're an artist, you can't be a good businessman. A businessman has to go this way. An artist goes straight. And so, I cannot call myself a good businessman.
He's a very, very good businessman, a shrewd one. He's a good Ijebu man. All Ijebu men are known to be good businessmen. And he shows this in his dealing with customers, like the National Theatre.
The National Theatre was the venue for Ogunde's first feature film, the recently made Aye. After it had been running a fortnight, Ogunde had a disagreement with the management on his percentage of the take. So he went to the projection box and removed his film. As a result, there was a riot in the theatre.
He always insists on controlling his box office. He will not allow any outsiders to do so. And he then will hand the management cut to them, not the other way around.
But Dagri, the old coastal trading port and one-time slave market, where tonight Ogunde is showing Aye in the local open-air cinema.
Ogunde doesn't sit down at home and say, the theatre halls are managing my films very well. And he's too aware of Nigerian management to leave his management of his art to anybody but himself. He takes complete control.
My film is in 35 millimeter, and so I bought a portable projector. So when I was traveling abroad, I took two of my wives with me, and they learned how to operate the projector. So when I came back, I'm going to show a film somewhere, maybe at the cinema house, or in a school hall, or even in a town hall. Then my wife will be there, my daughter will be there. They set up the projector, and the senior wives stand at the gate, collect gate fees, and people go in and we exhibit. By that, I've been able to avoid the cheating by the cinema houses.
And this isn't small money we are talking about. Oil-rich Nigeria has its own inflation, and a cinema seat costs about £2. But the Ogunde organization expects a return from other sources too. The family is there in force. Apart from managing the sale of soft drinks and refreshments, there are also Ogunde's latest recordings. Aye is a film that has already recovered 50% of its production cost in the capital city of Lagos alone. Now the rest of Nigeria is anxious to see it. In a country of 90 million people, Ogunde has every reason to feel confident of its success. Aye is another traditional tale about witches and possession, divination and exorcism.
I think my stories are for my people. And my films too are for my people mainly. Then if anybody wants to see it abroad, then I can export to them.
For Chief Ogunde, a year is a test of whether at the age of 62, he can start a new career as a filmmaker.
The traditional African belief is that when you are to do something, when you have a mission to fulfill in this world, and you are the real man sent to fulfill this mission, your assistance will be provided to by providence. We Africans say, when you meet a wife and you marry her and you live long and there was no problem, or there were problems, you are able to solve them, we think everything has been prearranged by God. So I now know that because of what I'm to do in this life, my wives and my children have been specially provided to be my assistants.
He's also very conscious, he's also very caring about his society and about his country. And he feels that even if Nigeria is fast changing in its mood and its tastes, that he can still be the spokesman for his people.
It's expedient and enlightened.
Beautiful Tuesday morning, 6th day of the month of September 2022. It's a lovely morning here. We believe it is a lovely morning to you out there. Yes, as you're getting set to leave for office, or you are at work already, just like we are at work here. Yes, reaching you live from OSBC TV, 32 UHF, and live on YouTube, and 113 on Star Times. It's another wonderful time on AM Cafe, the breakfast TV show on OSBC TV, where we treat issues that have to do with our well-being, with our survival as a people, as a society, as a state, as a nation. This morning, it's another very critical issue that affects the lives of every one of us we want to look at. My name is Benga Famino, welcoming you on board as we reflect on the recurrent incidents of building collapse in our society. Is building collapse a Nigerian situation? Is it a Nigerian problem? Or is it a global problem? Is it a question of changing weather? Is it something caused by nature? Or a question of inferior building materials? With me in the studio this morning is an expert in the field, talking about an engineer. When we go to different building sites, we come across different experts. We talk about architects, we talk about engineers, and different other experts. It will be shedding more light on the various experts we come across and whose fault it is when a building collapses. Please welcome with me Engineer Oladele Olani David. That's the past chairman of NICE. It's a pleasure having you with us in the house this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Yes. Engineer Oladele Olani. We know there are different types of engineers. Which engineer is yours, if we may put it that way? A mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, which one precisely?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, viewers and listeners. I am a civil engineer.
A civil engineer, that's yes. Good. Who is a civil engineer, please?
A civil engineer is somebody trained in the field of engineering to handle structural work, buildings, road construction,
bridges,
water treatment plants.
Okay.
We deal with geophysical structures. That is talking about the material, the soil material needed for construction work. You know, we have different types of soil. Some are good for agriculture, some are good for construction work. They are two different aspects.
Okay.
So when you're in the geotechnics, you deal with the material that is good for construction.
Okay.
And all the materials that are good for farming, they are the bad material for construction.
All the soil materials good for farming.
They are the bad materials for construction. So we remove them, we cut them.
Wonderful lesson this morning.
So then we deal with, we have an environmental aspect of of engineering.
Okay.
We deal with wastewater treatment, solid waste management. That's why you have in the environment, we have civil engineers there too.
All right.
And so many other aspects.
Okay, our focus this morning is on quality of, you said structures.
Yes.
But we're focusing not on bridges, not on roads,
no, why you
but on buildings.
On
buildings. These days, we hear so much about building collapses. But we want you to take us down the memory lane a little. Historically, is it a normal phenomenon for buildings to collapse, or is it new? Has it always been like that? Well, someone like me, I can't remember if I used to hear so much about building collapses back in the past, but maybe it's a natural occurrence since the technology of building a house began. Shed more light on this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Building collapse could be natural, as in natural when you are talking about the age of the building, or when you have natural disasters like earthquake and other things. other factors like that might lead to building collapse. But in the recent time, most of the, if I would say 100% of the collapse we are witnessing nowadays are not natural.
Maybe this side.
Yes,
because
this side.
That wouldn't be a situation.
In the advanced country, it might not be like that. It's not like that. It's
regions where they experience tremor, earthquakes.
Those ones are natural, but for here, they are artificial. They are man-made.
Man-made.
They are blunders and errors.
All right. In the past as well, it seems we talked more about stone as in masons. I mean, there were buildings with rocky materials and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's like what we use predominantly these days are blocks. There was another time in this part of the world, our forefathers, they built houses with muds. So now, but buildings, the muddy houses then still stand till today. Do they also collapse?
Yes. In those days that we are talking about, we have to consider that as at that time, we don't have much of these high-rise buildings.
Okay, that's true.
Most of the buildings we have are bungalow or probably a story building. You hardly have two-story buildings with models. And then when you look at those few story buildings, technically when you assess them now, they are either mostly they are over-designed. For example, I still look at my grandfather's house in my hometown anytime we go there. How could you waste so much resources? Because there are no structural designs and engineering touches. So they are over-designed, they are over-provided for. But in this modern day, with the technology, with the design, we have streamlined. You now have sections that are adequate. Unfortunately, probably because of the cost, the economy, and people try to cut corners. You have standard, you have specifications, but when people try to go below specification, or people try to avoid professionals.
But talking about over designs, you use that term. Those buildings were over designed. Over designed, like you're talking about drawing, or the materials were too much.
Where you are supposed to have a wall, technically that should not be more than 9 inches. You see our forefathers, they can have as wide as this.
That's true.
1 meter wall. That's the over design there.
But was that not responsible for the strength of the buildings then?
It was not cost effective.
Not cost effective, but the buildings were very strong.
Yes, probably because they were not going that high like it used to be now.
Okay.
If they are using that section to continue to go higher, the weight will be too much, and it's a collapse. It will be higher than what we have now.
Okay.
But unfortunately, they only have a story or two, and that will be the end. But now that we have restructured, we have specification for sections and the reinforcement and everything. When you have normal design, you are very safe. But these days, people cut corners.
Let's take building materials one by one, whichever time can permit us to take. Let's look at blocks, for instance. Yeah. What has changed in the making of blocks these days?
Yes.
We observe that blocks have become so weak, and some blocks can even be as soft, if not possible, like cookies, like biscuits and things like that.
A lot has changed about block. Most of the people who are into block making now, they are primarily for profit. They don't care about the end user. They don't care about what will happen later. Let me just make it's just purely profit.
Money.
And what baffles one is that you look at it, fine, the cost of cement is going up, the cost of sand is equally going up. There is nothing bad if you increase the price and still give the right quality. That is what we found wanting in our environment these days. People just increase the price and lower the quality. And it's not only about building material. Let's go back to gala. Common gala that you buy. In those days, you know the amount of meat.
That's true.
That is stuffed inside gala.
That's true.
Today, the price of gala kept on going. The quantity of meat kept reducing.
Quality of the material.
So that's exactly what is replicated in the block industry. So that's where we find ourselves these days.
Do we have anything like standard regulation in that industry?
Yes, I'm aware of Standard Organization of Nigeria, SON. They used to go around. In fact, they used to come to our laboratory, the Ministry of Works, to test some of these. But you see, the problem is there is no collaboration, synergy.
Between who and who?
Between the operators, the block making industry, and government. We need a force to enforce this. If some goes to this block industry, they have gone to so many blocks industry in Osogbo that I'm aware.
Okay.
And they brought samples, and most of them failed. And you stop them not to produce further, but the enforcement is not there.
The enforcement.
The power to enforce is not there. Seal a block industry today, seal another one. Before you know it, the union comes to OSBC, they go on the street protesting.
That's right.
That's the problem. We need discipline in every aspect of our life.
Perhaps consumers too have their faults.
Yes.
Could you say something about that?
I was going to talk about that. You see, secondly, when you now look at that, the consumer too have their fault. As we are speaking here, we have some specific block makers right here in Osogbo that still have the right quality, that meet the right specification.
Okay.
If this Mr. A is selling his own 300 naira and the quality one is being sold for 450, 90% of our people will not go for that 450. We will still go for
the cheaper one.
The cheaper one. And at the end of the day, we'll complain about bidding collapse. Let all of us discipline ourselves and say, okay, if this is the correct one, let us go for it. It happens to practically everything we are using in Nigeria now. People, probably because of the economy, people prefer to go for the cheap one, even though you might have to buy 2 or 3 in a year instead of buying quality that is one.
Why would one have to buy 2 or 3 in a year?
Probably, that's why I said probably because of the economy.
Okay.
Probably everybody wants to become a homeowner.
That's right.
At the cheapest cost.
At the cheapest rate.
Not at the required quality.
That's right.
That's the problem. People are not mindful of the quality again.
But is it an excuse that an average man would rather go for a bungalow rather than a high-rising building? Is it logical to say that maybe this is why people feel like, okay, since all I want is just a small bungalow, it doesn't matter the quality of the block?
Yes, a lot of people feel like that, but it's not right. Even if it's a bungalow, still use the right quality.
Does building a bungalow make a house safe, whether one uses inferior blocks or not?
A bungalow can still collapse.
A bungalow can still collapse.
You can have shear. Shear means that a section will just tear off. You can have a shear, probably where you're having a lintel or you're having your balcony, you put in a beam and the load of the beam is, the blocks cannot carry it. You just see a section. When you go around new sites these days, you see a lot of buildings where they will see their wall shearing, bending. It's because of this poor quality material. So I think we just have to appeal to our block makers. It's better you increase the price, give us the right quality.
Now, let's talk a little more about the role of consumers. As a consumer, I wish to buy blocks. What is it possible that lack of knowledge may also be responsible? Maybe an average consumer does not even know what is required to make a quality block? Maybe as a consumer, I want to buy blocks, certain specifications I should insist on that, okay, I want to buy these blocks, improve this, increase this. What and what should a consumer know more?
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. You see, the consumer have their own fault. Well, to a vast majority, I may say, let me put it like this, that lack of knowledge is there too. Because I know a lot of our people, we go to site differently and we meet a lot of people. I know a lot of our people in the community that will say the blocks they are selling is useless. So I'm calling local people to mold my block for me.
That's it.
And they tell them, out of one bag of cement, make 20, 25 for me. The strength is different. They know, those ones knows what they want to get. And they do it at their own cost. Others are just eager to just fix things, whether it's good or not. They don't even bother to know. Others are looking at it that, look, if I mold it, some will waste. 25 at the bag, I know the number of bags I'm going to use will increase. So let me buy the cheap one. Others are doing it purely because of cost. Buying just anything. It's just a bungalow. That's what you see. And buy anything. And when the problem comes, they pay in multiple foot.
What are the likely problems maybe having with cement right now? Quality of cement?
The quality of cement still remains the same.
Still remains good.
The quality of cement, at least for all the products that we have around, they still meet the specification.
As a civil engineer, you talked about your primary concern has to do with, even includes the quality of soil and things like that.
Yes.
Does that mean it's not just any surface that can hold a building or what?
No, it's not just any surface. It's not just any surface. That's why sometimes you see people, you go to a swampy area, a waterlogged area, and you want to put a 2-story building. If you engage me as an engineer, I'll tell you I need to first of all carry out a geotechnical survey of the land. I need to test the strength. I need to know the depth at which I'm going to encounter a very firm ground. You see, when you do a building design, you transfer the load, you calculate the load from the roof.
From the roof?
Yes. The roofing, I need to know the type of roofing sheet you want to know.
Oh, okay.
So that I will know the weight. Are you using steel to roof it or wood? I will estimate the weight.
Will there be beam on the roof?
Will there be beam, the slab, everything that will be there? I will calculate the weight and transfer those loads to the foundation. So it is now the type of soil that is there, the strength of that soil, that will now determine the type of foundation.
So you are suggesting that the roofing plan has to be considered even from the foundation?
From the foundation. Before you start the foundation, I have to know the roof type.
It's not after finishing
no, not
the
that
walls
when you finish the building and
I feel like, what kind of roof?
This is the type of roof I want to
But
use.
that's what an average layman does.
Yes, that's what we do, yeah. We have been doing here. But some of us are escaping the rot.
Okay, some of us are escaping the rot.
Yes.
I think you put it right. Yeah, that's
but
true.
In natural sense,
we are just being lucky.
In natural sense, we are supposed to start with the design. First, know what and what material you want to use. I need to know if you are going to use tiles or terrazzo because they have different weights. But since we have the kind of situation we have, that's why most of the engineers too, when you are designing, you will design for the worst condition.
Okay.
Okay, if I say it's going to use tiles and he ended up using terrazzo, which is heavier. So in the code for our design, we have different weights. So you go for the, okay, let's say I say tiles and you decide to use terrazzo, you go for the highest one to design so that you play safe.
So how do we now explain building collapses in in urban areas where elites and rich people live. And so, how do we explain situations like this? Why would you expect a house owned by a rich person collapsing?
It's very unfortunate. That is the rich that toys with engineering, mostly.
Wow.
They think they know it all. They think they can buy their way through. And right now, it's staring them in the eyes now. Most of them don't recognize professionals. I'm sorry to refer to the 360-degree building. You remember that during the investigation, it was reported at the time that the consultant withdrew.
That's true. That's true.
Because the client was not listening, he was not abiding by their rules. So most of the time it's the rich. They feel they have all the money they can buy and throw away. And that has been paying them back in their own coins. It's unfortunate the innocent people are losing life. Resources are wasted. But that's just the simple truth. The elites are running down the professionals and they are paying for it. It's just that we are losing more.
Talking about materials, we should also talk about, of course, there are different materials involved in building a house, not just cement, not just block. You talked about sand. And what about wooden materials?
The wooden
the logs of wood.
The logs of wood we have nowadays.
Are we experiencing reduction in quality?
Sure. The reduction is, in fact, is becoming embarrassing these days.
But that's natural. That's nature.
Let me just cite one example that is very common that all of us can understand. When you finish your house, before you start fixing the ceiling, you put logging.
Yes.
The specified size of wood for logging is 2 by 2 plank.
2 by 2.
That's 2 inch by 2 inch.
Okay.
Go to our market now. What you have in the market for logging now is about 1/4 by 1/4. 3/4 of an inch is off.
So,
and the cost is almost ×3 of what you used to be in about 10 years.
That's a problem at the sawmill level, right?
Yes.
At the sawing stage.
At the sawing stage, they are now reducing it. And I'll tell you,
so that they can gain more quantity
from the log.
From the log.
If you buy a big log, probably if you do the standard, you have like 20 of that size. Nowadays, you see them trying to get like 30 out of it. And that's, so by the time you now do the logging, if you are not careful, it depends on the kind of ceiling material you want to use. If you want to use asbestos, probably the weight is lighter, it can still carry it. But when you are going to POP or all these suspended, all these modern ceilings that are heavier, you have problem. Is that you now increase the number of brazing and all that. And by the time you are doing that, you've forgotten that we have taken, the engineers has estimated the weight, expected weight. You are increasing the weight.
So, is this part of the responsibility of Standard Organization of Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay. Regulating the quality of
material.
Of wood.
Yes.
So, but is it safe for us to assume that since we have not been seeing so many common man's building collapsing, that all is well?
Well, in this side of the world, the country, we are very lucky.
Okay.
Number one, lucky in the sense that we have a very good soil strata. Very firm. That can withstand most of these stresses. Unlike the cities like Lagos, Abuja, where you have sandy and waterlogged stations. That's why they are more rampant in such areas.
In such areas.
You can only have such situation here when we abuse design.
Okay. Abuse design how?
Abuse design in the sense that probably you carry out a design, you say, okay, this building I want 2 or 3 story building. By the time you start, right, mostly this happens mostly with commercial buildings.
Okay.
By the time they start and people start coming in that, please, I need the shop, I need, so we can have more. Let's increase it to 4-story building. Forgetting that the foundation was designed for 2-story building. Before you know it, they just change and they go and bribe and find their way, increase the number of floors. You have designed the foundation for 2-story building. The columns, that means the pillar, that's the first floor, the ground floor. You design them to carry just 2 floors. And now you are increasing it to 4.
Now, you are a civil engineer. Are you a part of NSC, Nigerian Society of Engineers?
Yes.
So where does NSC come in all of this?
Well, we work together. Civil engineering is just a division of the entire engineering body.
Okay.
So anytime you call this the Nigerian Society of Engineers, if it has to do with building, it is the civil engineers that will.
I'm talking about advocacy for sustaining good quality. Where does Nigerian Society of Engineers come in?
Because Nigerian Society of Engineers oversees all the engineering field. They are at the forefront. They are at the forefront, and the Council for Regulation of Engineering, we even have engineering monitoring units.
So does the body have the power to sanction an engineer responsible for a building?
Yes.
In the case of building collapse?
It's current that does that.
Okay.
That will sanction the engineer.
The engineer?
Yes.
That is once if the engineer is found culpable.
You will be sanctioned. Okay. Your license might be withdrawn.
Oh, so it's a very sensitive thing.
Very sensitive. That's why most of us, for example, I personally don't get involved in just any structure.
Okay.
If you invite me, I'll come. If I give my instruction and you are not complying, I'll withdraw.
Because something is at stake.
I'll withdraw in black and white.
In black and white. Put it in writing.
I'll put it in writing and I'll withdraw.
That withdrawn. I'm withdrawing.
Because I don't want anything that will tarnish my image.
Irrespective of the money involved.
No. How much are you going to make that you want to ruin your career? So that's the reason. And that's what we preach in every of our meetings. Because we have a lot of young guys who are into all this structural work, and we always advise them, don't think of what you make now, think of your future. So anything that is not going well, please stay off.
A building
and report to the institution so that we can do follow-up. And that we have been doing in
a building made by made up of inferior materials. What was the lifespan of that building like?
That is by grace. It's purely by grace. You might look at it and say, oh, this one, maybe in another 2-3 years. And then it depends on the usage too. If it's made by inferior material and the usage is below the load that it can carry, it can go as far as so many years.
Yes, okay.
But then another thing that used to cause problem mostly, you know that all the buildings, not all the buildings are new buildings. Some are old buildings.
That's right.
Change of usage too.
Okay.
Can cause failure.
When another user buys the building.
Probably you design a house, a building for private residence, and now it's converted to commercial. More people comes in. You expect a family of 4 or 5 to be living in this house, and eventually you turn it to a church, and you are using upper floor. You know, you have changed the usage.
That's right.
It's against the design. The person that designed it as say residential area. The load for a residential area is
now
different
becomes
from
the load for 50 persons.
For 50 persons.
100 people.
So when you have such situation, it can cause failure.
Where do town
it
planners?
does not mean it does not mean that the building is inferior or poorly constructed.
That's right.
But the usage.
Where do town planners come into all this? Talking about a building along a waterway. We see all kinds of things these days.
Town planners, they don't deal with structure. They don't know anything about structure. They just deal. Is this appropriate?
But they are the ones responsible for approvals.
Yes. Do we have
the location?
Do we have the appropriate setback? Do you have enough space around? Do you have? They just check all those basic check. Whether then they will give it to the structural engineer to check if the reinforcement, the iron, the material are okay. The calculations are okay. But theirs is just, do we have setback to the river, to power line, to the road? Is it far away from water? How many roofs are there? Is there cross ventilation? Is there this? Those are the things they check.
As part of the economic problems
Yes.
we have in this part of the world, there are individuals who raise their buildings through self-help. Of course, such an individual will not even have a need to consult people like you.
Sure.
So where's the safety in that?
That's the problem. And the most unfortunate thing, even that we have a lot of people who are not raising their building with self-help, who has the money, but they will tell you, engineer will collect money, let's do it. Babaramo can do this. I'll tell you one experience. I was a day I was going somewhere around Hotel. I just saw a building going on. I said, okay, I just park and check what they were doing. I saw the iron benders putting reinforcement. Baba, where is your drawing? You know what he told me? He said, we don't have drawing, we know what to do. He now said something in Yoruba. Can I say it in Yoruba?
Please do.
He said, one shawini. That he did not economize reinforcement, he bought. And
sufficient.
When I checked it, I saw that they were overloading the building. The reinforcement was too much. And the risk in overloading. Overloading is more dangerous than underloading.
Maybe just like everything you've explained so far.
When you overload a building, when you put too much reinforcement in the building, it's more dangerous when you don't have it, more than when you don't have enough.
Reinforcement at what level? Is it at the
lintel
stage? Decking. Oh, okay, decking.
When you are doing the decking and you put more iron in the deck, it's more dangerous.
Heavier than what
when you don't have enough. When you don't have enough, it's when the building will give you signs before it collapses.
But overloading will not give signs.
Overloading will not give signs. It will just come down. Bam, one day. When you underload, it will give you sign. You might be able to salvage it.
Okay. What are the likely signs one might see?
You might see the
cracks,
deck sagging.
Okay.
You will just be coughing gently. You see, where you have a wide span like this, you just see sagging. You might be seeing cracks. You might be seeing your walls cracking a little, some cracks in your wall. Okay. That will tell you that something is wrong. But when it's overloading, it will just stand there, and before you know it, it comes down without any notice. And that's what kills people mostly.
That's right. So, maybe one or two other questions. As lawyers, for instance, they have a way. I think, is it the one the corner? They have a way of assisting common people. There are lawyers who have a way of defending common people who don't have the means of paying for legal assistance. They have ways of doing things like that. What's the possibility of your associations or your team of professionals helping common people as well? That occasionally, okay, I'm an engineer, I can render my service, if not totally free of charge, but at a very low rate. What are the possibilities at your end?
Thank you very much. You see, if you don't have money, you don't go for a skyscraper. So let's
start from there.
Well, once you are just going for a skyscraper, you have the money. So
you have the money.
Let's forget.
Okay.
But for the low key, the bungalow, a single story. If for you to go for a single story building, you have the money with that. You are comfortable. And for the bungalow, I can tell you, as we are here, I cannot count the number of people who have invited me to their site to come and help them assess their work without collecting a dime.
Wow.
And a lot of us, my senior colleagues, my colleagues, we do that free of charge.
Okay.
For you to have even consulted an engineer is a pride for me that you recognize me. I will willingly do that.
Okay.
So, and a lot of us are doing that.
Okay. That's good to hear. That sounds encouraging. And on a parting note, your words of advice to our people watching this morning is an opportunity to say something to somebody.
All right. Well, for our viewers at home, I just want to advise, like we are dealing mostly with quality of material, please let us desist from most of these roadside block makers. Let us go for quality block. Check the quality. Ask them that, okay, if I want the required quality, how much will it cost? It doesn't cost us too much in the long run. When you look at it in the long run, you are going to benefit from it. Go for the right quality. Buy quality material and save yourself future headache. Thank you, sir.
Wow. Buy quality material and save yourself future headache. Like the wise saying, a stitch in time saves 9. A stitch in time saves 9. That is, when we notice a little tear, we quickly stitch it.
Yes.
Somehow, it saves us multiple tears. A stitch in time saves 9. What we got to do quick. That's how we complete it anyway. Well, Engineer Oladele, on a party note, just said this morning that we should make it a habit to go for quality. It's for our own good, for our own safety. And so much has been said on AM Cafe this morning. I think it will be necessary having you on board again another time. That because there is no end to knowledge. You have emphasized that the importance of designing a building, even deciding the specifications of the roofing and everything from the foundation. So it's like, it's not just about money. Maybe there's also a part of knowledge in all of this. To you out there joining us on AM Cafe this morning, we appreciate you. Thank you for your time. We do hope you have gained one or two things in the conversation. It's been a wonderful time with Engineer Oladele this morning. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We really appreciate it. To all our viewers, we should make the habit of contacting professionals. We have also heard that it's not all the time that professionals also have the mind of helping. That it's a source of pride to them when we contact them. So we really appreciate everyone. To all hands at the background, the MCR, which thank you so much. We appreciate everybody. To the producer, Urishola Ugunle, special thanks for your time, for your efforts. The executive producer, Olasokomi Ibayo, thank you so much. My name once again is Benga Famino. Appreciating you for tuning in this morning. To remind you, tomorrow is another day. We'll come your way on AM Cafe. Till then, this is wishing you a wonderful day. Goodbye and God bless.